Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, some of the ikhwah from Reading, Berkshire, after there's been an issue in our town, unfortunately an issue, and there has been a split between a party or two parties of Salafi brothers, then we intend to compile and release a series of audios addressing the issues that's actually taken place between these two parties. And we will discuss in detail the incidents that took place at Masjid Salafi, Lydford Road. Now at this point, we really want to mention and stress the fact, and we really want the listener to understand, it's imperative that they understand, that we actually had no intention and we had no desire to address this issue publicly. We did not intend to release anything pertaining to this issue. We remained silent and we plan to keep it that way. Even after the conference in Reading, where some of the du'at came down and there were many indirects that were fired. And even after Abu Khadija Abdul Wahid came down late last year, and he came down and he ranted, and in his rant was slander and kadhib, and he lied. And from those lies and slander was that we seek fame, and that we seek position, and that we have personal issues with the Reading Shura, and that we are trying to sow seeds of enmity between the believers, and that we have abandoned Sheikh Rabi, and that we have caused tafarruq, and that we may even be infiltrators trying to divide the ranks. Even after all of this, and before that, the Reading Shura themselves releasing a statement on their Twitter and putting on a WhatsApp group, the famous Manhaj Nights, which has over 100 members, when they released a statement saying that the Masjid was actually currently facing a smear campaign by a small group of individuals, that being ourselves, that the Masjid was actually in a decline or decreasing in their finances due to a smear campaign by some brothers from Reading. And that this group, they said, was attacking the dawah and they was attacking the Masjid. So after all of this, we still remain quiet and patient, and we left the affair. And then finally, the straw that broke the camel's back, Abdulillah Al-Ahmami, he came down to our town in January this year, and he continued with the onslaught. And then we decided that we would no longer allow our honor to be tarnished. We would no longer allow our honor to be tarnished without responding. And thus, we are now compiling these audios. We are now compiling these audios to tell our story and to let the people know what actually happened. So what actually did take place at the Masjid Salafi, Lydford Road? First of all, to understand the full extent of what's actually happening as we speak, then you actually would need to go back maybe 6 or 7 years, inshallah. So basically, the Salafi Masjid, it had many fruitful years where there was many shahadas and a strong brotherhood that was built upon muhabba and built upon forbearance and patience with one another. And we would say it reached its peak in the year 2013, where the vibes was amazing and Ramadan was memorable. Even brothers who lived outside of Reading would be able to give you stories of the energy and the vibes that you would feel in Reading, and the warm welcoming and the hospitality. Even brothers who wasn't linked to the Masjid or not known for their Salafiyah, general awam, or people who had doubts with them and would frequent and pray in our masajid, when they would come to our masjid, due to the love that they felt and due to the vibe that they would feel and the warm welcoming that they would receive, then it would remove from them the misconceptions that they actually had regarding the dawah And me, myself, actually being from those brothers. At the same time, our beloved brother, the Quran Hafiz, Samir Sudani, he was also present, appointed as an imam. And he would lead the prayer, he would lead Taraweeh, and this only increased in the beautiful atmosphere that we are speaking of. At this time, like I mentioned, the brothers was welcomed with open arms. And shortly after this period, then an elder by the name of Yazid, Abu Ikrimah, who had gone to live in Birmingham, he came back to Reading and he occupied a position on the Masjid Shura. And at this point, everything changed. But before he actually accepted the position on the Shura, according to his brother Hudayfa, he refused the position. And Abu Zayd would complain to Hudayfa saying, speak to your brother. He doesn't want to help with the masjid and he has an issue with me. Please speak to him, etc., etc., etc. And I actually myself recall having a conversation with Abu Zayd later down the line. And he said to me that Yazid said to him that he used to have Abu Zayd up here. And Abu Zayd, at this point, he indicated above his head. He used to have him up here, meaning he had him highly. He held him in high esteem. He rated him. And then he said, but now I have you down here. I don't rate you anymore. And the reason why he made this statement was because as far as he was concerned, Abu Zayd became soft in his manhaj. So, as I mentioned at this point, Yazid, he came to Reading and finally took a place on the Masjid Shura. And we would be told by Abu Zayd that Yazid had surpassed all of us in manhaj. And he's firm. And we would take him as an example and someone to follow in the masjid. So at this point, the masjid, it had adopted a more harsh approach. Some brothers were advised to stop playing football with some ikwa that we used to play with. Brothers who actually would be coming to our masjid. And we would stop giving the salams and returning the salams to some of the brothers who actually was coming to pray in our masjid. And we would no longer allow certain brothers to come and play football with us. Brothers who, again, were actually coming to our masjid. And the tone of the lessons had also changed. For example, the lessons by Abu Hakim, stories of the prophets, were cancelled. And they stopped out of nowhere. And we actually studied with Yazid, Abu Hakim's tapes against Abu Osama as an open lesson for the general masses. And at this point, the dawah basically came to a standstill. It was dead. I actually myself can recall, I used to lead the prayers for Maghrib and Isha on a Saturday. And I remember there was times I would actually go to the masjid to lead the prayer. And I would be praying on my own. No one behind me or no one to the side of me. The masjid literally was just going downhill. And it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. The youth who used to come no longer attended the masjid. The decline was clear for us all to see. And at this point, some of the brothers became concerned with the dawah. And we decided that it's best we need to speak to our elders and air our concerns. I myself remember speaking to Abu Zayd outside the masjid one night after Isha. And I said to him regarding the particular brother, I said, I'm concerned, I'm not comfortable with regards to how we've dealt with him. I'm not comfortable with the stance. I think we've been too harsh. I think we've been hasty. And Abu Zayd's response to me was basically a response that has become all too familiar from some of our elder brothers. And that was, Bilal, who have you been listening to? Who you been lending an ear to? I thought you were sharper than this. We know better. We know him better. We've seen this before. Trust your elders. And these answers didn't suffice me. I didn't leave more sufficed than when I came. And, we wanted firm, clear-cut evidences from the book and the sunnah to justify our stances. And unfortunately, our elders didn't provide that for us. So a few of the brothers, them being myself, Abu Idris, Isa, Abu Maymuna, Abdul Latif, and Khalifa, then we arranged to sit down with Abu Hakim, Bilal Davis, and to speak about some of the concerns that we had that our elders did not answer. So we actually, alhamdulillah, planned a meeting with Abu Hakim, and we went to see him in his masjid in Aston, Birmingham, and we sat for maybe 2.5 to 3 hours, alhamdulillah, and we discussed a few issues. And inshallah ta'ala, in the next audio, then we would speak in detail and explain exactly what was said. What did we bring in that meeting? What did we address? What did we mention to Abu Hakim? What was Abu Hakim's responses to us with regards to our concerns? How knowledgeable was Abu Hakim? What did Abu Hakim say regarding Reading and the Reading Shura and the Shiddah, if there was any? And inshallah, we will go into all of this in the next audio. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.